Hello, everyone. Welcome to Anywhere Operations, an operational mindset to remain uninterrupted and become unstoppable session. Technology is a true differentiator for organizations today, and the need for uninterrupted IT has never been greater than before. Along the same vein, there's also been a shift towards greater employee engagement and experience as organizations have started to adopt the Anywhere Operations mindset. I'm Prasad Ramakrishnan, CIO of Freshworks, and I have with me Andy Thurai, Research Vice President and Principal Analyst from Constellation Research. Together, we are going to discuss what it means to adopt an Anywhere Operations strategy, the challenges that organizations face in adopting such a strategy, and some of the practical situations where they have been implemented. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you, Prasad. Good to be with you.
Always great to chat with you, Andy. Yeah, let's first try and define what we mean by an always on mindset, right? If you look at the trend over the last few years, technology has moved from what we refer to as a purchase-based model, where IT used to go and purchase an Oracle license or an SAP license, to more what I refer to as a usage-based model, right? And if you look at from an employee expectation perspective, they look at it as water flowing down the faucet when you turn it on, right? Where they start looking at IT as a utility. They look at business applications, business services as a utility. And the same type of experience that people are seeing when they open up their mobile phone and have a consumer grade experience, they start having that same expectation with business applications and with corporate applications, right? So in this paradigm, I think employees now have an expectation that when IT provides a service, it is always on, right? And they don't want to take any downtime from an application perspective. If you tell them that, hey, your BI platform is not going to be available from this time, or if they see an unpredicted downtime with any of the services like single sign-on or their printer or their Wi-Fi, they find it very difficult because from a personal experience perspective, and I've seen that with my own kids, right, where they're used to having the mobile phone and their iPad, and then it works for them all the time, right? Andy, what are your thoughts here? I'm sure in some of the research
that's quite a lot of things you embedded in there. So let's start with the first one, right? First of all, you stole the words out of my mouth, but the compute, it just didn't, I mean, the compute moved to always available, always on. But the paradigm or concept is not new, right? I mean, the utilities, as you're suggesting, whether it's water, electricity, gas, it's available all the time. You use it when you need it, and then you pay for what you use, right? That's pretty much the mentality. We have had it for hundreds of years, if not, more. Not hundreds, maybe decades at least. So that mentality, combined with what I call it as a fast food culture of, I need it when I need it, what I need right now. So it's not a question
of gratification.
Instant gratification. Exactly. You put it right. So it's not just about, I need it when I need it, but the expectation for the availability, but not only just availability, the higher quality of it. For example, if I'm catching a ride from the airport, if I pull up Uber first and Uber says the car is going to be 25 minutes away, I'm not going to wait around for it. I'm going to look at Lyft. I'm going to look at other options to see if I have an option for 15 minutes. So the speed, need for speed, I want my services as soon as I need it kind of thing has become pretty big now. So not only we expect always on, but also the customers demand, not just expect, a higher quality of service. When the big cloud providers go down, that's not acceptable. Yes, they have major problems and services go down, but you know what? That's your problem, not mine. I expect yours to be available. I want you to give me 4, 5, 9 uptime. It's a demand. So IT has to cope up with that, simply because going back to also, we and I talked about this as well, about the fact that everything has moved online, the forced maturity of business moving online, which has allowed when I go to Macy's or JCPenney into a store, they are available to serve me, or supposedly at least are open and available to serve me. So when I go to your website, when I try to order things, I would expect the same deal, that somebody is available, whether it's a chat function that's available, ordering function available, inventory available. I need to know. So always on going forward. That's how it's going to be.
Yeah,
You can
and
never
I
be
think
off.
totally, Andy. And if we are seeing that, see, as you know, Freshworks is an employee and customer engagement product company,
Yep.
right? And we are seeing that in terms of the expectation, even from our users. For example, if you look at our whole sign-up experience, right? From the time you sign up for a product to try and buy a product to the time we provision an instance for you, people used to be willing to wait 1 week, 2 weeks previously, right? When I remember after I paid the license for Oracle, it would take a week for them to come and provision. But now we actually provision it as in less than a couple of minutes, right? So from the time you do your sign up button to the time an instance is provisioned for you to now try and really play around with it, it's order of minutes. That's the type of expectations even end users have. And if you look at from an IT perspective, it makes our life that much more fun, right? The same expectation that we have as it relates to our products, the whole consumerization of IT. When it
Yes.
comes to internal IT services, right? We need to, and you rightly hit the point, right? If AWS goes down, my users don't care, right? At the end of the day, to them, I did not get my data. I did not get the information that I need. So now I think the mindset has to be, how do you build a resilient, unstoppable type of an IT service paradigm so that now we are able to provide a top-notch service to our employee base or our customer base, depending on which audience you're talking about, right? Because IT in some cases permeates between both internal and external, right?
Can't argue with that. So I'll also add one quirk to that. The other thing is, because of the expectations are so high from your customers, one of the things you also have to do, keep up to date on that. In case of cloud provider, you got to be running in a multi-cloud, or if you're using almost everything is built on micro composable services now, the services infrastructure. So if I'm going to be getting some information from somebody, if that user is down, it doesn't matter. You should be getting that information from somewhere else. You should be able to feed that information to me as and when I need it. I don't care if one of your data providers is down. You should be built a resilient architecture in such a way that you will get the data what I need from wherever it's possible.
Yep. See, I think one other aspect which kind of comes to my mind, right, is most people think about IT as only IT and technology, right? But I go back to an aspect here, which is take, for example, the employee onboarding experience. In many cases, they have achieved what they want to achieve in their old job, and they are now coming to a new job full of passion, full of energy, and they want to now come and deliver and prove themselves and put their stake in the ground, saying, "Hey, Prasad has arrived, Andy has arrived, John has arrived. He's come and he's made this difference." Right now imagine a new employee coming on board and not having a fantastic experience on the day they come on board, right? Not having what they need when they come on board, right? So a few things we have done, right? And I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are, Andy, and what you're seeing from your research. Few things we have done, right? We try to optimize the employee onboarding experience, not on day one, but even before day one. We want to make sure we do the non-technical part of their onboarding, with the manager engaging with the prospective employee, the things that they need to fill and other things. We try to engage with them even before. And then on day one, we try to optimize and say, if Andy has come on board and he's in product management, I know the 17 applications that you need access to for you to do your job. Okay, but John has come on board. He's coming in sales. Here are the 15 things that he needs to get his job done. So we have created like role sets and application sets and map people to that to make sure that when they come on board, they're hitting the ground running, right? Now, there is an unstoppable aspect to this, because they want to come in, and it's like I equate this to a Tesla, right? When you buy a Tesla, you have an expectation that you go from 0 to 60 in like 2.5 seconds, right? So it's like that. When an employee buys and comes to this new place, they have a Tesla type of expectation where they now have a supercharged car, which they're now able to come and drive and show that they're actually a top-class race driver, right? So curious to see what you have seen from your research perspective.
Well, so if you're looking at a speed car, I wouldn't use Tesla as an example. I would have used Ferrari, but
No, but I'm
but
also
yeah,
talking about automation here, right? So if you
yeah,
look at
I get your point. I mean, it's so one of the things it's funny you mentioned that. So first of all, the tools, as you said, a lot of these organizations are moving towards best of the breed tools. You don't force. I mean, gone are the old days that you buy the big dinosaur licensing applications, implement 2 years later, and you'll have it up and running, and then you'll force the employees who are coming. This is the ERP system, this is the CRM system we are using, force them to use it. Most of these guys start using whether it's for logistic applications, or whether it's, for billing purposes, whether it's bill.com, or, when I work with multiple vendors, they all seem to be using the similar tools that I'm using, and both internally and externally. So that makes the job easier. So when you start in a new job, as you said, it's just the same thing. All I need is a new login ID using your company, and I'm up and running. As opposed to, provision account for me in 20 different places, wait for my laptop for a week to arrive. That's all gone days. I set up an account, you're ready to go within an hour. Boom, boom, boom. You're ready to go, and you're full of energy, and you're at high speed. You start here, and then let's go. Hit the ground running.
Yeah, so true. And in fact, it was this which actually helped us during the pandemic, Andy. And if you remember, in one of the previous sessions that we did, this was one of the questions somebody asked me, right? During the pandemic, there are times at which we could not deploy a laptop to our new employees, right? Because they were in a remote location, and there was a time during the pandemic when the complete supply chain had stopped. There was no FedEx type of services or UPS type of services to actually ship laptops. We actually resorted to what we call as virtual desktop, but I now had multiple virtual desktop providers available for me, and you as a new employee could come in, and then I would provision you a virtual desktop environment with everything that you need, a really powerful one, right? And then for the 1 week extra it takes for me to ship you the equipment, you're actually working in a virtual desktop and completely doing your job, right? So employees have that expectation, right? And the more we optimize for that, again, I'm going back to the onboarding paradigm here, right?
Yeah,
the more we optimize for that, we make sure that employees are productive and they have a good impression about the company, and then it makes IT feel good, right? If you look at the other aspect, Andy, all of this doesn't come without a cost, right? And I've having been in the industry 3 decades, I've lived the old traditional legacy data center model, traditional licensing model, right? Spending millions of dollars on the initial purchase and paying the toll as a depreciation, where if I look at my controllable spend and uncontrollable spend, depreciation will occupy 40-50% of my IT budget. I'll have no control over it because it's all the sins of the past and all the legacy stuff which I've bought, which is now kind of flushing through as depreciation. So I have very little money to play around with, right? And when we made the transition to more the usage-based model, one of my challenges was, how do I convince a CFO, right? When we already got an IT budget is not unlimited, right? There is always a percentage of the revenue or percentage of G&A, right? And I can't tell the CFO, hey, CFO, trust me, it will take me 5 years to get past this budget issue, right? So I think one of the things which we did creatively was move non-contextual or non-core things initially to a usage-based model, which actually demonstrated the value proposition, so that when contracts were coming up for renewal, we put a stop and said, we are not going to try and double spend. As much as possible, we'll try and keep that overlap to not more than 1 to 2 quarters, so that we are not double spending. So thank God for us, we had some licenses coming at one point and another getting into renewal at 6 months later and so on. So that kind of eased the pain for us to move from the legacy model to a SaaS-based model, right? And I think if you look at companies that want to move towards this is one of the challenges many people have. How do I convince my CFO, right? So,
well, it's not only convincing a CFO, but also you got to keep in mind, this is the some of the legacy companies. I don't want to call them dinosaur and get in trouble here, but some of the legacy companies made a living out of this, right? So they make sure that you can't leave it. For example, I can even go to an extreme example of saying, There are companies that made a living by selling mainframes. All right. So when you spend that kind of hundreds of millions of dollars in the mainframe, you're not going to dump all of it and move to cloud right away when you have so many applications built on it. So how do you do that then? How do you re-platform that while keeping your mainframe, while keeping your applications? Remember that the fiasco, the COBOL Y2K fiasco we had 21, 22 years ago? And there people were thinking in 85 to 90 around time frame when they were coding the applications, they did that stupidly enough because they thought the mainframes won't be around that long, 15, 20 years after. Now we are, even 30 years later, we are still here. I mean, the mainframes is not going away. Probably, as someone was joking, we will have a year 10,000 problem sometime because it's working. You already spent money on it. You invested in it. You can't get rid of it that quickly. So you got to continue to use that. And as an IT person, as a consumer, as a user, you know that where the future is. But for a CFO, they are looking at the books, they are looking at the numbers. What am I going to do with the money that we invested? We invested $100 million there. Now you're telling me I need to reinvest equivalent that amount. And you may or may not use that. That doesn't sit well with them because it's reflecting in the books. They got to figure out a way to do that. So that's why the hybrid model has become so popular. A lot of these companies were doing it, that they use some of the extra bursting services into the cloud or build adjacent services that you want to do that. It's good and bad in the sense that it's good because you're keeping the old legacy systems and moving some of the systems to the new, but then by trying to build such complex systems, it kills your innovation as well. There are things that you could do with the new modern services infrastructure so easy that if you are to integrate back with their existing systems, that takes a whole lot of energy and effort. So there's no right or wrong answer to that. It depends on your company culture, I would say. If you say, okay, so I'm this company, I've done all this, it worked for a while, but I'm going to build things, new innovation. I'm going to build these many applications, just use some of the data that's in there, but then start doing a new application. Then you start building from ground up a complete cloud native application, ignoring that. Or if your culture is that I want to keep using that I already have, there's no wrong answer,
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head here, Andy. See, at the end of the day, there is no one size fits all, right? Because
that's right.
Different companies in different industries are in different stages of maturity, right? And you have to keep the overall picture as to where your organization is. And a lot of times people forget, most people look at the visible things, which is the technology part, the dollars part. People forget about the people part, right? Think about it. If you're running a legacy IT infrastructure, you will have a network engineer, you'll have a storage engineer, right? You'll have a data center engineer, right? You'll have a whole bunch of people deployed to just keeping the lights running and keeping this infrastructure running. In the modern SaaS only type of a footprint, a lot of those headaches are now borne by the SaaS vendor, right? The SaaS vendor takes care of making sure that you now have almost an unstoppable type of an environment. But what do you do with the people that you have invested in? These are smart engineers. These are people that need to be retooled, reskilled, so that now they can be more relevant in this new type of paradigm. But the fundamental aspects of IT, like meeting SLAs, making sure that we have service level objectives, service level adherence to SLAs and all that, that doesn't go away. And these people are used to managing that in a legacy type of an environment. And now reapplying that thought into a cloud native or a SaaS only type of deployment is taking old wine and putting it in a new bottle, right? And then making sure that you're getting the best out of the people, right? Leveraging their functional knowledge on how to run all of this, right?
Yeah. So in a sense that the old employees know your company culture or company, whether it's governance things, security things, or the way to do business with the customers, your customer base. They know a lot of those knowledge that they bring up the company culture. Then they need to be trained in a newer technology, a full stack applications on how to build, how to monitor, and do all of this stuff. But if you had to go from this way up, you could hire the new kids in the block. When I say new kids, I'm not necessarily talking about age. I'm talking about people who have learned the newer technology, the cooler technologies. And then you got to teach the other side of things. So you got to make a decision saying, what is better for me? In my view, I've seen a lot of companies try to do a blend of both. They have a mix of, both the old school people, again, not age. I'm talking about people who know the technologies and company well, plus the new one that need to be trained, and get the blend of both of them. Particularly when you start doing things like, Scrum meetings and stuff like that, you don't want to have a bunch of new guys or a bunch of old guys. Again, I'm not talking about age, I'm talking about knowledge, so you got to mix them up. And a couple of people already know what the legacy applications did, and what can be done in the future going forward in the company culture, and the newer ideas. Mix the ideas up and build things that are cooler.
So true, Andy. And if you look at the aspect many practitioners forget about, they optimize for the employee experience, customer experience, but they forget about the agent experience, right? And at the end of the day, the people that make the magic happen, right, is the agent. They are the ones who know how to bring all of these things together. And now, if we don't arm them with the right type of tools, right? If you go back to how our CEO Girish loves to tell the story. The reason he started the company is because he had a bad experience with the support, right? One of his TVs was broken, and he had a bad support experience. So he put himself in the shoes of the support engineer, and how he had to go through 15 different applications to give the support to Girish. And he said there has to be a better way to do it, right? And so most people forget about the agent experience as it relates to from an ITSM perspective, right? I optimize for saying, does my agent in my function have all the information that they need to support Andy? Do they know everything about Andy, so that they're not asking you the same type of questions, right? Which requires us to bring a lot of these things together, where the agent feels like, what, I have done my job. I have done really something great for my employee. They get the sense of satisfaction. They get the sense of achievement, right? So I think that's one more aspect we need to focus on.
Yeah, the empowering of the agent is a pretty important thing that a lot of people forget. If I'm a consumer using your service, if an IT analyst or IT agent is looking at the problem, the first thing they need to do, this is what I keep talking about, both the AIOps and observability and all of those related areas of DevOps and CI/CD things. When it comes to having a reliable, always-on application, it's not just that you got to have a mature CI/CD organization. Yes, that code velocity is there, but that doesn't mean a thing if you don't build a reliable service. So if you don't have a proper observability in place, if you don't have an AI ops in place, if you don't understand the status of your services that are available, you're not doing it right.
All bets are
You're
off.
just wasting your time. Yeah. I mean, you are producing code velocity faster than you can sustain. What's the point of doing it? You're screwing yourself up. So not only the systems need to be set up properly, but if something were to happen, your IT agents, your IT analysts need to know that your system is either down or going to go down or trending towards that way before your customers will ever know. So the last thing you want to do is that you want to find out from your customer that your service is down. That's a killer. Cannot continue to happen forever. So you got to figure that way out to do that. And then even if it were to happen, go down, if they were to call in, unlike some of this companies doing it in a fiasco way, rather than, oh, we'll give you an update 3 days from now. No. Give them, at least a status update saying that these are the services that are down. The ETA for that is going to be at this time, and we'll make sure that it will get up, and this is the problem. You can do postmortem analysis and stuff later, but you need to have your customers up to date, and your IT agents need to be empowered to know what's going on. Because if I don't know, if I'm an IT analyst, if I don't know what's going on with my system, I can't give an update to my customer. They can keep calling all they want, but I don't have the information to give them what the problem is. So what am I going to tell them? I can take the call. So you need to create a bunch of service tickets for do nothing with that. What's the point of creating it?
Right? and the service tickets now adds to the load of the IT agent.
That's even worse.
Who's already burdened with so many of them, right? If you look at the whole AI ops mentality that you're talking about, right? It's about how do you create a resilient infrastructure which is self-healing, right? So I'll give you an example, right? Now, as you know, and I've discussed with you in one more of the seminars, right, where we use a lot of our own products. In fact, internally, we use a term which I call C1, which is I'm customer one for all of my products.
Why would you not? Why would you
Why
not?
would
If
I
your
not?
products are that good, you eat your own
Yeah.
dog food or drink your
You
own
eat your own
champagne,
dog
how
food.
you want to call it, of course.
Right. And I think one of the things we do is not only do we use it, we have a direct line into a product management team. And imagine from a lot of, in fact, one of the questions people ask me is, do you see that as a pressure? I'm like, no. Where would I have the luxury of now talking directly to the product manager, directly talking to the product engineer, and getting features that I want, which my team
Prioritizing,
wants.
yeah,
Right,
absolutely.
my thing becomes top priority for my engineering team. And where will I get that? I have an
It's a
army of,
pressure on them. It's a pressure on them to deliver
and it's a
what you
win-win
want
for
on
both.
time.
And it's a win-win for both, right? And so,
Yeah.
see, some of the things in terms of the whole IT operations management integrating with ITSM, what we have done on asset management, what we have done on Slack integration, what we have done on Teams integration, all of these things are combined things, which gets back to what you are talking, Andy, right? How do you bring and remove the notion that from an end employee perspective that they're actually going to an application and reporting a ticket, right? Because to them, if I say, oh, your thing is broken, open up this application, log in, then press this button to now submit a ticket and hit submit. Gone are those days. People want to go into Slack, people want to go into WhatsApp, submit a ticket, they want an omni-channel experience, right? So it is about changing the paradigm of one, the way they report tickets, from an agent perspective, how they respond to tickets, how they status on tickets, to what you just said, Andy, and how we take care of this entire continuum so that now they feel like they're now in a never stopping world, in an unstoppable world, right?
The problem is, a lot of people think the reverse of what you said is a better way to deal with IT problems, right? They would think as soon as an issue comes in, just create a ticket for it. So you don't have to go to an app and create an app and then you create that. Problem with that is that when you observe full stack applications, a critical error when you have, depending on where in the stack, if it's a network issue, it could go all the way up to up in the application level stack. You could create hundreds, if not thousands, of alerts. And each alert can create a service ticket, potentially, because it's a critical situation. So when it comes down to it, the alert fatigue for IT analysts is very real. People are burned out so fast, so quickly. It's almost like an ER room situation, right? And one of the things that AI Ops helps, which is what you and I talked about last time, if not for nothing, at least that noise reduction and the incident management, when it comes in, just narrow down to the few ones that you need to look at, and then make sure that it has a relevant context. So essentially, at the end of the day, it's about identifying the incident either as soon as or before it happens, have all the information what to do to fix it, and then fix it. It's as simple as that.
Totally. And also the whole self-healing aspect, right? Where it can automatically fix it, let the system automatically fix it, right? Andy, I think you and I can go for another 2 days just talking about this topic, right? This has been a wonderful discussion, right? And I see the adoption of the always on mindset requires companies to move to a digital first cloud native strategy, right? And then break down the various silos between service and operations management. And this will enable companies to finally move towards a delightful way of taking care of employee engagement, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about how do we make our end consumers, whether it's our employees or customers, happy? How do we increase delight for all of them, right? So basically, that's all I have for today. It's been a wonderful discussion again, Andy. And what I would encourage is for the viewers to check out the other interesting and insightful sessions that we have as part of this Be Unstoppable Summit. Thank you all, and thank you, Andy.
Thanks for having me.